This video contains content that may be confronting.
3 men jailed over the gang rape of 3 women during a Bucks weekend in Newcastle have had their convictions overturned on appeal. One of the trio has now been acquitted, with the appeal panel saying he's entitled to be released from prison immediately. Court reporter Jamie McKinnell joins me in the studio now for more on this. Hi there, Jamie. So just remind us about the details of this case. How did the appeals court reach this decision today?
Hey Mel, well, there were 2 brothers involved in this case, Maurice and Marius Hawell, as well as their friend Andrew David. Now, those 3 men were convicted of multiple counts of aggravated sexual assault and aggravated sexual touching in company after they faced a joint trial in the New South Wales District Court. Now, their charges related to a February 2022 Bucks weekend where these 3 men went to Newcastle and stayed at an Airbnb, and across 2 nights they met 3 women, 2 18-year-olds and a 19-year-old, who were sexually assaulted in the Airbnb. Now, these 3 men were previously handed jail sentences of between 9 and 14 years, and a sentencing judge said that they had acted with a pack mentality towards these women throughout the sexual assaults. But during an appeal hearing earlier this year in August, the men challenged their convictions. Broadly speaking, their lawyers submitted that the verdicts were unsafe and unsatisfactory based on the evidence, and they questioned the reliability of witnesses as well, including people who were in the Airbnb. Now, the prosecution case in this prosecution was one of a joint criminal enterprise. Now, that's where 2 or more people who commit a crime can be found jointly responsible criminally at a trial for the actions of one another. So a lot of the appeal argument centred around the evidence and whether it could support that idea of a joint criminal enterprise. And in the circumstances of this case, it was said to have involved an agreement between the 3 men to have sexual intercourse with the women with or without their consent. So that was a pretty key part of this appeal. Now, it was a pretty complicated appeal. There were some grounds that only applied to 1 or 2 of the men. There were specific ideas about directions that were given to the jury. But overall, today, the Court of Criminal Appeal in New South Wales has ordered that Marius Hawell's convictions on 7 charges be overturned, and in their place, verdicts of acquittal be entered. So this result is the most significant for him. That's because there was a distinct issue in relation to Marius Hawell in this appeal. His lawyers had questioned whether the evidence during the trial was enough to support the fact that he was in a room when there were sexual assaults taking place, because the court heard it was a dark room and the complainants were giving evidence about who they thought was where at different times, and that's part of the evidence to do with his whereabouts. So that's why this appeal result is the most significant for him. The Court of Appeal has said, subject to any other reason for his detention, which the court is not aware of, Marius Hawell is intended to be released from prison immediately. So a significant result for him. Having said that as well, though, the Court of Appeal has ordered that the convictions for the other 2 men also be quashed.
Yeah, so do we know what will happen now with the proceedings against the 2 men who were yet to secure acquittals?
Well, it's still a little bit up in the air. So in relation to Maurice Hawell and Andrew David, although I said that their convictions have been quashed, the Court of Appeal has made orders today for a retrial to possibly take place. But the judges who sat on this appeal have said that whether or not these men are put to a retrial will ultimately be a matter for the New South Wales DPP. The first time we might get an answer to that question is on Friday, because the cases for those 2 men will be remitted and sent back down to the District Court. They'll come before the court on Friday, so that might be the first chance where we'll see an indication from the DPP about whether it's intended there to be a retrial for those 2 men.
All right, Jamie McKinnell, thanks very much for the details.
If you or anyone you know was affected by this video, please contact Lifeline on 13 11 14 or 1-800-RESPECT, 1-800-737-732.